Hey, I'm Sarah. Before I dive into my story, don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more about how I navigated one of the toughest nights of my life, an experience that completely changed everything for me. Thanks for tuning in. The evening was meant to be a celebration, hosted at Mrs. Whitmore's lavish home. The setting was perfect, with crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over the fine china that adorned the table. It was a joyous family dinner, or so I thought. I was eager to share the news of my recent promotion, a significant step up in my marketing career. I remember smoothing out my dress and taking a deep breath, ready to reveal my achievement, expecting smiles and congratulations. As the appetizers were served, I leaned towards my husband Tom and whispered, "I have some great news." He nodded, encouraging me to continue. Turning to the family, I announced, "I've been promoted to senior marketing director." But instead of applause, I was met with a chilling silence. Mrs. Whitmore's eyes narrowed, her lips pressing into a thin line. She leaned towards Tom and hissed just loud enough for me to hear. "Is this what we raised him for?" To be overshadowed by his wife's career. Tom, who had always been supportive, seemed to shrink under his mother's gaze. His smile faded, and he withdrew his hand from mine under the table. I tried to salvage the moment, saying, "It's a great opportunity for us, Tom. The raise is substantial." But Mrs. Whitmore cut across the table, her voice dripping with disapproval. "What about starting a family, Sarah? Do you think money can replace the joy of children?" Tom joined in, his tone suddenly cold. "Yeah, Sarah, when are you planning to settle down a bit? This career isn't everything." I felt a sting, not just from his words, but from the betrayal in his voice. "I thought you were proud of me," I responded, my voice trembling. The main course was served, and the conversation shifted to other topics. But the tension simmered, much like the pot roast on our plates. Tom's demeanor grew increasingly hostile, mirroring his mother's disapproving frowns. Dessert had just been placed on the table when Tom abruptly stood, throwing his napkin down. "You should know your place, Sarah. You're my wife, not my competitor." His voice boomed through the dining room. I stood up, my heart pounding. "Being your wife doesn't mean I have to give up on my dreams, Tom. I deserve respect, not this." Then, in a flash that still plays out in my nightmares, Tom raised his hand and struck me across the face. The sound echoed, a sharp crack that silenced the room. I stood frozen, hand to my cheek, as pain spread and every pair of eyes at the table stared in stunned silence. Without a word, I turned, my chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. I walked steadily to the foyer, my mind racing. The echo of my heels on the marble floor marked the drumbeat of my escape. I grabbed my purse, not bothering to look back, and stepped out into the cool night air. The door closed behind me with a soft click, signifying the end of one chapter and the terrifying start of another. At that moment, I knew my marriage was over. I had to leave to find my place where ambition wasn't a sin. I needed to breathe, to find myself again after being lost in someone else's shadow. As I drove away, the house shrinking in my rearview mirror, I felt a mix of fear and relief. I was alone, truly alone, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of something fierce and bright, freedom. It was the beginning of a new journey, and I was ready to see where it would lead me. Waking up in my small sunlit apartment the next morning felt like the first day of a new life. The events of the previous night seemed both distant and painfully fresh. My phone buzzed continuously with messages of concern and confusion from friends who had heard whispers of the incident. I ignored them, focusing on what needed to be done. The first thing I did was call a recommended divorce attorney. "I need to file for divorce," I said firmly as soon as the call connected. "It's urgent." "Understood," the attorney replied. "I'll prepare the initial paperwork. Can you come in this afternoon to go over the details?" "Yes, I'll be there." Hanging up, I felt a small, victorious thrill. There was no going back now. At work, I tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy, though my mind was elsewhere. My boss, Mr. Daniels, noticed my distraction. "Everything all right, Sarah?" "I'm dealing with some personal issues, but I'll manage." "Thank you. If you need time off." "No, I'd rather keep busy." "Thanks." He nodded, understanding. "Let me know if you need anything." Grateful, I dived into my work. The familiar tasks were a welcome distraction, and my colleagues were supportive, making it easier to breathe amidst the chaos of my personal life. "Heard about last night, Sarah. Are you okay?" "Jenna, one of my closest friends at work asked. It's been tough, Jenna, but I'll get through it. You're stronger than you think. And hey, if you need a place to crash or just hang out, my door is always open. Thanks, Jenna. I might take you up on that. Drinks after work? My treat, she said with a smile. That evening, over drinks, Jenna and I talked about everything. Despite the turmoil in my crumbling marriage, I found relief in moments of laughter and normalcy, even if just for a few hours. When I finally returned to my apartment, I checked my phone. Several missed calls from Tom. I debated whether to call him back, but decided against it. Instead, I sent a text. I've filed for divorce. Please respect my space during this time. His reply was immediate, filled with desperation. Can we talk about this, please, Sarah? I didn't mean. I responded firmly. I need space, Tom. Good night. As I put away my phone, a mix of emotions swirled within me: sadness, relief, anger. But above all, determination. I was free now, or at least on the path to freedom. Looking around my sparse but cozy apartment, I felt a deep sense of peace. This was my space, my sanctuary. No one here could hurt me. I thought about Tom, about how his own choices, influenced by his mother's toxic views, had led him to this point. He had isolated himself from the person who had stood by him all these years. It was sad, really, how he had let his better judgment be clouded. But that was no longer my problem to solve. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized I was no longer just surviving. I was stepping into a phase of life where I could finally start living. Tomorrow, I would be stronger, and the day after, even more so. This was just the beginning, and I was ready for whatever came next. As my career soared to new heights, I became deeply involved in larger, more impactful marketing campaigns. My network expanded as I connected with influential figures in the industry, hosting webinars and leading workshops that highlighted my expertise and leadership. One busy Monday morning, while reviewing campaign proposals, my phone buzzed. A call from Lisa, a well-known industry contact. Sarah, I heard through the grapevine about your personal situation. I'm sorry you had to go through that, Lisa began, her tone sympathetic yet professional. Thanks, Lisa. It's been tough, but I'm managing. Listen, I've been thinking. There's an opening for a conference speaker next month. The topic is resilience and leadership. I believe your experience, both professional and personal, would really resonate. What do you think? The offer took me by surprise, but it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. I'd be honored, Lisa. Thank you. As my reputation grew, so did the whispers about Tom's behavior. It wasn't long before these murmurs reached the ears of those who once respected him. During a routine industry meetup, I overheard snippets of conversations about Tom. He's looking for work again, one executive muttered to another. After what he did to Sarah, who would hire him? The other replied, shaking his head. Meanwhile, Tom struggled in his professional world, a stark contrast to my thriving career. He tried to reach out several times, attempting to repair his tarnished image. One afternoon, I received a text from him. Can we meet? I need your help. Against my better judgment, I agreed to a brief coffee meetup. Sarah, I'm sorry. I was wrong, Tom started, his voice low. I've lost so much. I can't find work anywhere. It's like all the doors are closed. I'm not in a position to rewrite the past, Tom. You made certain choices, and now you're facing the consequences. But you could help me. Talk to people. Tell them I've changed. The professional community talks, Tom. They know what happened. It's not just my story anymore. It's about the choices you made. Leaving the cafe, I felt a mixture of pity and resolve. Tom was learning a hard lesson about respect and consequences, one he had brought upon himself. Back at work, I dove into my projects with renewed vigor, determined to use my experiences to empower others. It was a bittersweet realization that sometimes personal trials could lead to professional triumphs. But as I looked ahead to new projects and opportunities, I knew I had made the right choices for myself, forging a path that was true to my values and my vision for the future. With the finalization of my divorce, it felt like I could finally exhale after holding my breath for so long. This new chapter wasn't just about moving on. It was about taking everything I'd learned and using it to fuel my future. At work, my role expanded beyond my day-to-day responsibilities. I started a mentorship program for young women in marketing, driven by my own experiences of overcoming adversity. It was during one of these mentorship sessions that I met Ava, a bright and ambitious intern who reminded me so much of myself at that age. During one of our mentorship sessions, Ava looked at me with curiosity in her eyes, her notebook ready. Sarah, how do you handle criticism, especially from those who think you don't belong? I smiled encouragingly. You listen, you learn, and then you let your work speak for itself. Never let anyone's doubt become your reality. Use it as fuel to push harder. Ava nodded, scribbling down notes. And what if it's really tough? She asked. Then you reach out. Lean on your network, find mentors, and never be afraid to ask for help. We're stronger together, I emphasized. The mentorship program wasn't the only highlight of my life. My social circle had also expanded. I was frequently invited to speak at industry events and social gatherings where I shared my journey. At one such event, a networking dinner for leading marketing professionals, I was approached by Derek, a former colleague who had heard about my recent achievements. Sarah, I must say, your talk was inspiring. How do you keep pushing forward after everything? Derek asked, his admiration evident. It's about not letting your past define your future, I responded, accepting the compliment with a nod. Every challenge is a stepping stone to something greater. Our conversation soon shifted from casual to a deeper discussion about potential collaborations. Sarah, have you ever considered writing a book? Your story could inspire so many, Derek suggested. The idea intrigued me, and by the end of the night, I had exchanged contact information with a publisher who was also at the event. It seemed like every social interaction opened a new door, a testament to how far I'd come. As my professional and personal growth continued, so did my confidence. I hosted workshops, led campaigns, and became a voice for resilience and empowerment in the marketing world. Each speaking engagement and workshop felt like I was not just sharing my knowledge but also healing myself, turning past pains into lessons for others. After a long day of back-to-back events, I lay in bed, reflecting on how much my life had transformed. I was no longer the woman who sat at that dinner table silently suffering. I was a leader, a mentor, and a survivor who had turned her trials into triumphs. This wasn't just a new beginning. It was a vibrant, fulfilling continuation of a journey that I was proud to claim as my own. Months passed, and the echoes of my past with Tom had largely faded into a quiet murmur, overshadowed by the vibrant life I was leading. Yet one afternoon, during a coffee meetup with a mutual friend, Melissa, those old echoes stirred back to life. Sarah, Tom's been asking about you, Melissa said cautiously. He's really struggling. Says he regrets everything. I sipped my coffee, considering her words. People often regret when they feel the consequences of their actions, I replied evenly. He wants to talk, maybe apologize. He seems sincere, Sarah. Melissa, I appreciate you telling me, but that part of my life is over. I've moved on, I said with finality. Melissa nodded, understanding the firmness in my voice. We changed the subject, leaving Tom's regrets where they belonged, in the past. Despite Tom's attempts to reach out through messages and calls, I remained firm in my decision to keep my distance. Each attempt was met with silence from my end. It wasn't out of spite, but out of a necessity for my well-being. My journey had taught me the importance of boundaries and self-respect. In the months that followed, my professional life flourished even more. I spoke at conferences, led innovative marketing campaigns, and watched my mentorship program grow. The impact I was making felt real and fulfilling. My story, shared on platforms and in workshops, resonated with many, becoming a beacon for those navigating their own battles against adversity. One evening, reflecting on the past year, I realized the depth of my transformation. I had not just survived, I had thrived, crafting a life rich in success and significance. The knowledge that Tom was out there, regretting his choices, was not a source of satisfaction, but a somber reminder of the consequences of disrespecting and undermining others. As I closed my journal, filled with plans and reflections, I felt a profound sense of peace. My past with Tom had catalyzed a journey of empowerment and achievement. My triumph wasn't found in his downfall, but in my rise, in my unyielding resolve to turn pain into power, and in my dedication to live a life defined by my values and visions. As we conclude this story, I'd love to hear from you. Do you think Sarah was justified in completely cutting Tom out of her life? Share your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.